Hey guys, you are looking at a build of a little office park complex that I wanted to put together. When I get to the live mode, we're actually going to take a look at some of the real life places that inspired this sort of concept. But really what necessitated this development, if you take a look at those RCI indicators at the bottom of my game screen there, you can see the industrial one is through the roof. And I did not want to build another industrial park per se. So figuring out how to satisfy that demand without building smokestacks was sort of the motivation here. And I'm using RICO, ploppable RICO mod, and these assets, which are kind of office buildings, and I kind of modified them so that they would satisfy that industrial demand. And as you can see right there, just as soon as they're going down, you can get a little gameplay out of it. The indicators dropped right through the floor because these are pretty high employment buildings. I don't remember how much I had to modify the employment demand of each building, but I made it so that it would definitely take care of all of the demand that was there. As you can see thus far, one of the centerpieces of this build is lots and lots of parking, because that to me screams realistic office park. The advantage to having offices in a place like this as opposed to downtown is the simplicity and ease of getting there and having parking and all that stuff right on the site. You can park right outside your door. So I'm spending a lot of time getting the parking just the way I want it. And I hope that doesn't make for sort of an annoying video, but I really did take great effort to make sure that the parking is exactly the way that it should be. And yet I also made an effort to make sure that this parking lot was not exactly the same as the one for the building across the way. So a lot of thought went into parking for this build, and I'm showing an awful lot of it now. But it was really an important part of making this feel like an authentic office park environment. foliage around the back there that separates the buildings from the highway. And I'm about to move into sort of a bonus segment for this video because I did one other little build that I wanted to show off. I needed to A, include another cemetery, and B, I want to have a church. A nice one. I figured that it works really nicely here in this historic part of the city where you have that historic castle asset right across the way, which you can't really see in the video I'm showing, but it really is right on the other side of the street from where I just plopped down this church asset. So I thought that kind of added more the old church feel, and I live in New England, so every single small town here is built around an old church. Usually they're tall and white with a big tall steeple, but in some of the downtown areas you'll see those big old cathedrals, a lot like the asset that I plopped down. It's really what I was thinking about, needing that sort of centerpiece somewhere in the town so that it feels old. And that's a big part of what we're trying to do in this map, so it was a big important thing to add for me. And I really do like the way it came out, thanks mostly because of the asset, but also because some of the little additional features like this little walkway on the side to get into the side entrance to the church, and the plantings as well. Now that the church is done, we're back over here at the office park and adding in some needed details that make it feel like a more professional place and a more finished place from just a landscaping point of view than the way I'd left it before I took a little detour over there to the church and the cemetery yard. So first creating this little courtyard garden in between the two buildings, which I thought would just be a nice thing to have. I thought about doing a fountain in the center of this, but it's a little too big, and the fountain assets are a little smaller, and it almost feels silly to have this tiny little fountain in the middle of this thing. And I didn't want to have paths going through the garden where people would be walking. I just wanted it to be a sort of do not step here kind of place. And later on, when I add the curb assets around it that separate the garden area from the pavement, it really has that feel. Here I go to add in the curb assets. I think that just added such a nice piece to separate it off. I really like the way that looks with the curb on it. don't show the entire build of the entire office park here in this time lapse, mostly because this is something I kept coming back to over weeks and weeks. So, but we are coming to the end of this time lapse. We're about to kick it into a live mode. I will see you there. I want to start this live mode by looking at a couple of real-world examples of places that I've been that sort of informed and inspired the build for the office park that we just saw and that we're going to take a look at a little bit closer in just a second. I've got two of them actually. This first one we're looking at here is in Clearwater, Florida, and I actually worked for a very short time as like an intern really while I was still in school at a business that was in this building right here. But this whole larger complex really was one sort of big thing, and it was right on the water. I mean, this is Tampa Bay over here, and this is US Route 19, which is a pretty heavily traveled byway that goes north to south through Pinellas County, Clearwater. So this building here and these two ones surrounding it aren't particularly, I mean, they're fine, but they aren't particularly great. And these ones out here are interesting just because they're sort of like staggered, at these right angles, which was something that I noticed that makes it really convenient to lay parking, and also gives you interesting space in between the buildings to do plantings of parkland. I think that these pavers here are actually from the tile collection that you can download from the Steam Workshop. Obviously not; these are real world, but that does look an awful lot like the tiles that that everybody uses, which are great on the Steam Workshop. But anyway, and these plantings too, they look a lot like King Leno's large oval planters. So it's funny. I guess it just means those are good assets and they look realistic. But this is obviously not. This is Google Earth we're looking at right here. But anyway, I thought that was cool, and I did a lot of that right angle sort of placement on my buildings after looking at this. But the ones that I really liked the best and tried to draw a lot from were these here. And well, that's a little bit much, I guess. But I wanted it to look, these were the newer buildings, and actually after working in this building, while I was in school, when I got out, I actually interviewed for a job in this building and thought I was really moving up in the world. Didn't end up getting the job, so that's besides the point. But had the nicer entrances. It looks like a much newer building. The plantings around it are much nicer. The interior was a lot nicer. Not that that means anything to you guys, but lots of parking is another theme that clearly runs through this one, and making it feel like it's an office that's in a city, that's in a busy part. I mean, Clearwater is not downtown Tampa or anything. I mean, it's dense, as you can see. We've packed in houses pretty darn tight, but it's a busy enough place, and it's a secluded enough place to feel like you can have plantings and trees around here. I almost feel like an office in the park sort of feel, and that's what I was going for. So that's the first example. This is the second one, and this one is in South Portland, Maine, and this is someplace that I've been. There's a lot of medical offices in these buildings here, and so they're two separate buildings. They sort of face each other, and there's parking all around. And again, lots of plantings around it. It feels very much like offices in the park, and in between them, although I don't know how good of a look we're going to get here on this. I wonder if I go back to a 2D look. In between these two, these plantings and these little walkways and this roundabout in here, it looks a lot nicer than what Google Earth is giving us right here. It's too bad that I can't get a much, more detailed look. I'll have to go over there and like sneak a picture of it or something. But it's actually a really nice little courtyard almost in between. So that was something else that I wanted to try to duplicate and put into my own build. But again, if you look at these buildings, these are, pretty nice and feel very suburban. And then South Portland is also, I mean, this is in a very heavy commercial area. This is another office area over here. This is a little strip mall, and this is a big mall right here. This is the main mall, and all the parking that's around that, and lots of other retail, going on around there. And in between, you have this little office space, and you have some other ones up here. There's some more offices up here and over here. But that was the kind of thing that I was going for, to kind of capture this sort of secluded office park facility that could be very upscale, very convenient for workers to get to, and a nice place to just generally have your business. So let's jump in now to the game and take a look at how it all came out when it's done, and I will see you there. Hey guys, how's it going? So this is about the fourth or fifth time that I'm going to try to go ahead and record this live mode. Everything that can go wrong has gone wrong so far. So this is going to be the one, though. I've got a really good feeling about it. And if you're hearing this, that means I was right this time. But I've had a microphone crap out on me, so I'll apologize now. And not that I had the greatest microphone before, but what you're hearing now is probably even a slightly less quality-wise than what you're used to. And I will get that remedied, but for now, this is what we've got. And then I was going to show off another build that I did, and I started going through it and then took a look at some things and said, oh my god, I never finished this. So that didn't work. And then, of course, the church, which you did see built during the time lapse, I went back and looked at it, and something happened with the actual church asset, whether I had accidentally deleted it on the workshop from my collection, or whether it had been taken down and then re-uploaded, because I'm pretty sure I went and found the same exact one and have put it where it belongs. So we are going to take a quick look at that one. But enough of that. Hi. How's it going? How's your day? How are things for you? This is going to be the one. I'm feeling good about it. So here is the office park that you saw the build of before, and I just want to take you through some of the quick highlights on this here. We have the planting in the roundabout with the rock, and then something kind of mirroring that here in the courtyard, which is nice. And while I'm over here, I'll just quickly show off. This here is the on-ramp to the highway that you see in the foreground, and then this is the plantings that went on in the back. So I've added a couple more trees and some other things to the foliage here that I think is adding to it a lot. The sugar maples, the gold, which is part of the fall collection, and also these bare trees, which for areas that are supposed to be sort of unkept tree growth areas, which I have a lot of in this map, I think it's important to add these bare trees. You always see sort of dead tree, leafless trees in those kinds of areas, so we're going to make a conscious effort to add those. So these are the parking lots, how they came out. You see the plantings that went in there, and the buildings themselves, really nice assets, really easy to plop and clip at 90-degree angles thanks to these rooftop utility areas. So that's what was done with those, and the idea here was to satisfy a huge industrial demand that if you look at the beginning of the time lapse, you see the RCI indicator clearly showed that I had that, and I don't want to build another industrial park, so I had to figure out another way to solve that. So we used ploppable RICO and some other things to utilize the employment of these buildings to kind of artificially take care of the industrial demand without having to build, massive smokestack buildings. So, and I like the way this came out. I do. And so here you see more of those golden sugar maples and more of the exposed ledge, which I don't like putting in a lot of places, but seem to make sense here. So down it went. So with that, I'm going to show you one other build that I did. This shopping center here is actually the one that's incomplete. Otherwise, I'd be glad to show you that one, but it's going to have to wait. This is a quick little. I was also having a sick people issue, and I only really have one clinic in the city thus far. So we downloaded this asset and put it in, did a quick parking lot here next to it, and then on this side of the building is sort of the emergency entrance. And since the trash and everything is back here, we created a little utility, and I was going to add some dumpsters and stuff here, but I didn't quite figure out how I wanted it. But for the most part, this is done, comfortable enough showing it off just for a quick second. And I'm sort of spreading these things out. I mean, if we zoom way out here, you'll see we've done a bunch of residential expansion, really filled in this whole portion of the map here, all the way up to the Castle Park area over here. And I'm just sort of dotting through in this area because along this octagon, I want there to be pretty significant buildings, but in these spaces here, I want it to be pretty dense residential. I need to build some of that stuff. I just haven't gotten in and done it yet, and it will get done. And that takes us to the church that wasn't but now is again. And the church building asset itself, I think, is really nice. Looks very old and fits in with the theme of what's going on here. This very old castle sort of looking thing. To have the old church next to it and the old graveyard, I think makes a lot of sense. Plus, I get to bury people there, so it helps take some of the dead person strain off of the other cemetery, which we built, I don't know, 6 or 7 episodes ago. I'm going to tweak the lighting here, the position of the sun, get a little better look. That'll work. So as you see it here, it's yeah. Well, now that's just too bright on that side, but stone church, nice plantings, a lot of these prop trees around it, but this one's hard to hide, but I did my best to hide the rest of them and created a little walkway entry from the street over here with a gate and the cemetery. Whoops, I went around way too far. And the cemetery on that side. So the plan is to continue developing down, and if we can take a quick look without giving away too much stuff. Oh, I just gave away something. Little sneak peek at things that are coming in the future. But as you can see, I've done a lot more of the streetscape in here, which is going to be really the spine of the streets for the downtown. There's going to be a interchange right here. Oh, and I did another interchange here. I really needed another highway interchange, so I added one in right here. Just really simple with the on-ramp, off-ramp really tight to that. Should probably do a little more detailing in the on-ramp, off-ramp areas. But we're getting ready to do the downtown, and that's very exciting. I hope you'll be with me for that. But until then, I want to leave you with a couple cinematics of the work that was done. Thank you very much for tuning in. My name is Ferris. This is San Rafael Island. I look forward to seeing you next time. Y'all be good to each other. See you then.